PHNX Coyotes podcast brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Leah Merrill here with Steve Peters, and Craig Morgan is joining us live from Gila River Arena, where he thought he would never have to be again. Yet there he is.
There he is again.
And look at the difference if you're watching on video right now. Craig in this drab room, and Petey and I have decorated this space. Sorry to the audio listeners for that off the bat.
Excited. It's draft lottery day. This is honestly what we started August for, was for today. This is it.
This is it. This is the moment. How you feeling?
Craig's not here. Craig, you got champagne there? Because we've got champagne here.
No, buddy. I'm in the bowels of Gila River Arena. Like Leah said, I never thought I'd be here again, but I came back one more time because Bill Armstrong's going to talk. I don't even get a beautiful backdrop for you guys of the arena, of the ice. I'm not even sure there's ice because I didn't check. But I got to be close to the interview room, and then I want to get back here to talk to you guys after availability with Bill ends. So here I am with this really sexy backdrop.
Looking good. Well, how's everyone feeling? Let's do a pulse check to start us off.
You know, it goes back and forth. Do I feel lucky? I was going to wear lucky socks, and then I remember the last time I won one of my lucky socks, the team lost. So I didn't do anything. Nothing out of the ordinary. Is this the year? Is this the year they finally win it?
I don't know. It's just hard to believe. And I feel like the consensus of Coyotes fans, at least on Twitter today, from what I saw, is just everybody's so used to expecting disappointment that nobody's expecting any less. Although I will say the results of the poll, the winning poll for which pick the Coyotes fans think the Coyotes are going to land, number 1 was the winning answer, and then number 4 was the second. So everyone was either very optimistic or keeping their expectations managed.
Yeah, I was surprised actually to see so many people saying number 1. I was getting a lot of pessimism today, and maybe I primed people with yesterday's story about all their rotten luck. But I thought I came back and gave them some hope that it didn't matter as much. By the way, somebody just asked where your crystals are, Leah. So
I forgot that.
Oh my
Don't
God.
start on the crystals.
It's
We're not mentioning the crystals.
It's already a point of stress for me. I forgot the crystals. I did remember the champagne, however, but whatever. You win some, you lose some.
Beer. We got your wine from Nashville here. We're all ready.
Yeah, Craig wishes he was in the studio with us. Man.
That's the truth. That is you have no idea how much I wish I were there instead of here. I'm back in Glendale, and I never thought I'd be back. So I'm going to call it. I'm going to say this is the last time that I'll be at Gila River Arena. At least
Look at AJ from DNVR jumping in to watch the draft lottery, because apparently Colorado's not too excited
about the draft lottery. Yeah,
maybe
out, one day.
Yeah, they're already sitting at home. They might even get a couple rounds of golf in before they play the second round of their playoff games. Good Lord.
Man. All right. Well, the draft lottery, we have it up on the TV. So if you see us looking up to the top right, it's because we're glancing at the TV to see what's going to happen. We talked about it yesterday a little bit on our show about how it's more confusing this year than in years past. And that's because there's not one draw, but there's actually 2. And nobody can really give a fully clear answer, but we have in the last 24 hours kind of come to understand it more. So Petey, you had a good grasp on it. Can you explain what is happening in the next 20 minutes?
So if you're a Coyote fan right now, the first thing we're going to look at is they're going to start opening envelopes for 16, 15, 14, and on down. What you want as a Coyote fan early is to see those top 3 teams not fall in order, meaning you don't want to see Vegas, Vancouver, Winnipeg, because if one of those is out of place, that means the worst the Coyotes do, they've already moved up a spot, and the worst they can do is 3rd. So, yeah, it matters. These first envelopes matter. Doesn't mean they're going to win, but it means they move no worse than 3rd if those top 3 don't fall into place. Those teams 16 through 12, if they win the first lottery, they can only jump 10 spots, in which case they'd go to anywhere from 6 to 2, and then Montreal automatically gets the first overall pick. So 2 draws, we'll see.
We've said this before, and I was talking to other writers about this today. How is it possible that we are on the eve of the NHL Draft Lottery and it's still unclear really how it all works? Why isn't there something out there from the league that just lays it all out? Why do we have to go through all these machinations to try and figure out how the draft lottery actually works? I don't get it.
Because this is the NHL, and I feel like the NHL loves to operate that way.
Yeah, because when you look at, and we talked about the Montreal Canadiens, their odds are 18 point whatever, 18.3. But
18.5.
Again, if Vegas, Vancouver, all the way up through Columbus wins, Montreal automatically gets the first pick. So it's not 18.3%. It's more like 25.6%. Because if any of those other teams win, Montreal still gets the first pick. So Montreal has a 1 in 4 chance of getting the overall pick. And right now we're still saying that's potentially Shane Wright. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yep. And as draft guru Chris Peters told us, maybe you don't want to be in that spot this year, because if you're in the number 1 spot, you're basically pressured into taking Shane Wright, whether you're fully confident that he's the number 1 overall pick or not. And this is a year where a lot of draft analysts, a lot of scouts, a lot of executives will tell you there's a tightly packed group of players. There's not a lot of difference between them. I see you guys looking at it, by the way, so you got to tell me if something's going on. Because
no, they're just showing
all the GMs in their various locations. And
but Craig, that brings up a point, because you talk about the Coyotes having so many picks in the first few rounds. Do you see any chance that they either trade up or trade down? They package, let's say it's 4th, and they package the 4th, Jacob Chychrun, a 2nd round pick to get the number 1 pick. Or conversely, they get the number 1 and go, hey, somebody want the number 1? We'll take next year's number 1, next year's first and a 2nd, and whatever that is, to move backwards in the draft. Do you think either of those is a possibility?
I'd be surprised. I think they still want a really good player at the top of this draft, and you need to be in that top 7 or so to get what you think is a, not necessarily a franchise player, although nobody really knows, and we won't know for 3 to 5 years, but a really good player that's going to help your team. I think they worked very hard to get in this position, and can you imagine selling that to the fan base? You waited all year to get into the draft lottery, and we've decided to trade down. Sorry. You won't get a pick yet. You have no idea. We're gonna pick up the 15th pick in the draft, and you just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and I think you talk about it. It's so hard to judge players at this age, but as a whole, when you look back at number 1 overall picks in history, I mean, these are players that are household names to everyone, and obviously a lot of them are obvious, and they were the consensus in their years: Ovechkin, Crosby, Patrick Kane, Austin Matthews. But you look at number 1 overall picks in history, and those are the players that make an impact, that are maybe not franchise players, but huge parts of franchises, possible Hall of Famers, stuff like that. So you have a way better chance in that number 1 than any of the others. I know this year it's up for debate, but at least maybe Bill Armstrong doesn't feel pressure to take Shane Wright if he and his scouting staff have spent all this time all year and they feel really confident about someone else. Just from what I know about Bill, and I don't know what's going on in their room, in their scouting room, but I don't know. Do you feel like Bill and the scouting staff would be pressured to take someone, or do you think they'll take who they truly believe is the top player?
Yeah, I've got the sense from Bill that he has got a vision for what this team's going to look like in the future and what he wants and what fits into a quote-unquote Bill Armstrong team. I don't think Bill Armstrong and his staff is going to say, well, if it's not Shane Wright, if he's not the guy, they're not going to pick him. I mean, I think they've got a clear vision of what they want. And believe me, there are some players that are in that top 3 that fit what Bill Armstrong's looking for. That the Slovakian kid, I got to even look. Slavkovsky, Juraj Slavkovsky, 6'3", 240 pounds. That's a Bill Armstrong player. So yeah, I don't think they'd be afraid if they get the number 1 pick. Is that a guaranteed pick that it's Shane Wright? I don't think it is.
Yeah, I think in your point, Petey, you guys both made good points that I want to get back to. Size. Let's keep that in mind. If they don't get the first overall pick, where are the Coyotes going to go with it? I have to wonder if we're going to see it be one of those, Slavkovsky, maybe one of those D, or maybe even if people really feel like Cutter Gauthier is rising that much, all of those guys have size. Bill Armstrong likes a big team. That was the team that they built in St. Louis. So keep that in the back of your mind if they don't get the number 1 overall pick, for where they might be leaning with that pick. Going back to something you said, Leah, it's an underrated part of the Coyotes saga. A lot of people will talk about unstable ownership, management that didn't have enough money or enough patience from ownership to do what it wanted to do. Those are definitely factors here, right? And the Coyotes haven't drafted well. They haven't drafted well enough in the past. But one of the things that gets overlooked all the time. And you guys remember when we had Arpin Basu on the show, is that they've never picked in the top 2, not just top 1, the top 2. That surprises a lot of people when they hear it. Still, when I tell them, like, how is it possible that the Coyotes of all franchises missing the playoffs most of the years out here have not picked in the top 2? Luck has something to do with this as well, and the Coyotes had not had a lot of it. And where do you get those game-changing players? You get them in the top 2 picks. Like Leah said, you have to get a couple of those picks in order to turn your franchise around. Look, Edmonton hasn't done enough. Maybe they're not the best example, or Toronto for that matter, but Toronto's on a great run. Everybody's looking at Toronto. Oh my God, look, they did it the right way. What are we saying about them if they didn't get Austin Matthews? What shape are the Toronto Maple Leafs in if they didn't get lucky and win the draft lottery that year? Granted, they had the worst record, but as we've seen many times, it doesn't mean you get the top overall pick. The odds aren't that great. So it changes the entire narrative around your franchise. Some of it is unfair. Luck plays a major role in all of this.
It really does. You look at the Pittsburgh Penguins, for example. I think they're the perfect example of a team that luck completely changed the path of their entire franchise. The 2005 draft lottery, where they won first and they picked Sidney Crosby, and it completely changed the whole trajectory of that franchise. So if this is the beginning of luck for the Coyotes, then I hope that this is the beginning. I know I just repeated myself, but I think if we can have number 1 this year. And the thing I get worried about is if the Coyotes have number 1 this year, will they not have number 1 next year? It doesn't mean that they can't. There is a rule that they can't have it more than twice in a 5-year period. But if you're going to get it this year and next year, we'll take it.
But I think, and we've talked about this over and over and over again, you look at the Chicago Blackhawks that win the Stanley Cup, you look at Pittsburgh Penguins win the Stanley Cup, you look at the Colorado Avalanche now that it's a team on the precipice, they all had draft success, not once, but at least twice. So yeah, they can have it. Let's get it this year. And then, you know what, worry about next year. But I think you're going to have 2 successful drafts to really catapult this team into the future. And you know what? You can see it in the chat, Craig. Maybe you can't. Or can you? Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it.
People are pretty excited, and people are actually getting nervous
People are nervous, and I do want to address the chat.
Bill Daly is on the stage right now.
So Bill Daly currently is standing in front of a table with a stack of cards.
Here we go.
And that is the image that haunts Coyotes fans for many, many years. But I do want to acknowledge everyone in the chat. First of all, thank you so much for being here with us. If you're watching on Twitter, head over to PHNX Sports on YouTube so you can comment with us live, and also hit the like button while you're here. But there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of, people seeing them come out. Oh my gosh, now the things are falling from the ceiling with the 1 through 10. He's holding number 16. Okay. So stuff is happening. Bill Daly is holding number 16. Vegas. So Vegas did not move.
At 16.
All
right.
Hey,
watch this, guys. I'm actually going to move my gold-plated platform from my computer here and get a view of the TV myself. Look at this.
Look at you, Craig.
Woo!
So that
transfers to Buffalo.
Yep. So producer Shawn will be happy about Buffalo getting the 16th pick. All right. Yep. Bill Daly is now coming with
15.
15. We'll see if anyone moves. Vancouver holds.
So far it's holding serve.
You want to talk about a team that has had lousy lottery luck, too. The Vancouver Canucks have had terrible luck throughout.
Although you could argue when they got Elias Pettersson in that draft where the first 2 picks didn't pan out as well, Yep. All right, number 14.
This is rolling.
It's going. Winnipeg did not move either. Serve,
so this means the Coyotes still could get 4th.
Yes.
It so far. Move up.
So far, it means
everybody's holding serve. Wow, this is going quick.
It's going. Well, here we are. Okay, 13, Bill Daly. And we can't hear him, but we can see him.
The Islanders
stay. They stay at number 13. So no movement yet.
And next up
will be
Columbus.
12. Yes.
Columbus, if it falls in order. Columbus is sitting on the 12th spot now, so we'll have to wait for their envelope. Do they hold serve? Columbus holds serve.
Boy. Like, my heart is pounding out of my chest right now.
So we're down to the top 11 now.
This is where somebody can steal number 1.
So now we're in
The new rule was that a team couldn't move more than 10 spots. So, the 12th can only get the second. 11.
San Jose holds serve at 11.
Staying at 11.
Shawn,
wow.
do you have that graphic that you have with the top 10.
Are you guys on some kind of delay or something? Because I'm at 10. I've already got number 10 Anaheim. This is weird.
Okay,
Well, don't give it away to us.
Man.
Anaheim.
Oh, the chat's even ahead of us.
Yeah, Shawn.
Yeah. I think I'm going to start narrating here.
Yeah, that's the one.
All right. So
Because you guys are behind for some reason. I can't
Okay, well,
figure it
don't
out.
give it away, Craig.
Why not?
The Ducks held
I'll
serve at
give the
10.
other
Next up
team.
at 9 is
the chat might give it away.
Buffalo. The Buffalo Sabres get more luck.
Yeah, I'm ahead of you guys.
What the heck? What is our
Yeah.
TV then? All right.
Detroit at number 8. It's a done deal. It's a done deal.
Detroit's at number 8.
Yep. You guys, why are you guys behind? This is weird.
I don't know. We're on cable.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess I can watch on our GM Saul is sitting next to us. I can use his phone.
The number 7
right.
pick goes to the Ottawa Senators.
All right. Yep. Number
8
8.
is Detroit. 7 is Ottawa.
7 is
All
Ottawa.
right.
So we're
Everything's
holding serve.
holding. I don't
Holy
know.
shit.
So does this mean that the Coyotes are going
Oh,
to get
boy. Number
stick
6.
at number 2?
Da, da, da.
Oh my gosh. I'm so nervous.
It's the Chicago Blackhawks. They have not moved up.
Wow. Chicago.
So we've
did
got
not
Ottawa and
move.
Chicago. They have not moved up, so we're down to the final 5.
Remove one conspiracy theory with the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
So we're at final 5.
seriously.
It's supposed to be New Jersey
Here.
Devils are on the clock right now.
We got
Craig?
the faster feed right here, Petey.
Okay.
Number 5, the Philadelphia Flyers. Here we
Oh,
go.
New Jersey. No.
Wow. This is insane. Sucks to suck, Chicago, says AJ. Everyone's really happy that Chicago stayed, I think. That's a consensus among. Sorry,
Here we go.
CHGO,
Number
that you didn't
4.
get to move
Number
up.
4. This is a big one here.
We're still on 5 over here.
Seattle Kraken at number 4. The Coyotes will
Seattle.
pick in the top 3.
All right, so the
it's a
Arizona
guarantee.
Coyotes are officially picking in
Guaranteed.
the top 3. This is exciting. This is really exciting. We'll see. Oh my gosh. Okay, so what will it be? Everyone in the
So is
chat,
Jersey
give
picking
your
first or
picks.
second?
Jersey,
We don't know.
Arizona, and Montreal
So
left.
Jersey's first or
you know-
second.
Yep. Again, come on.
So it can't be
Enough with
Arizona.
New
So
Jersey.
Seattle is 4. So
Wow, New Jersey.
Craig, you got the
New
number
Jersey
3.
also
No,
has
they're gonna
lottery
take a
luck.
break. They always take a break before the final 3. This is
Oh
how
So
they
my
taking a break before the
gosh.
final. This is it. Holy shit!
New Jersey is another one of those teams that has moved up far too often, in my opinion, and done
They
very little.
have.
Yes.
It's
Arizona.
a commercial.
The Devils have won
Rude.
something, but we don't know if it's the first or the second. And
oh
so
my gosh.
the Coyotes still have an opportunity for first. This is the longest we've hung in this for a long. 2015, it was over by now. Edmonton
Everybody's
jumped way
terrified
up.
of. Everybody's terrified that
Dude,
it's going to be number 3 again.
Do you have the most recent lottery winners? Do you have the most recent lottery winners? History of lottery winners? Most recent lottery winners?
We will
We will in a
eventually.
second.
So we need Montreal to be number 3, right?
That is
If
correct. We
Montreal-
need Montreal to be 3.
Montreal has to be number 3, or it's going to be us.
Correct.
Correct.
It can't be New Jersey.
That is correct.
Yep.
Because New Jersey is either first or second. So the next pick, if it comes up as Montreal,
All right.
then
So
we're
this
first.
so this is the moment. Every postgame show, 82 postgame shows, where we would look at the standings.
Then we would have jumped to first.
By the way, if you can hear,
Holy
that's
shit.
that's Saul Bookman
so really,
in
the
the
next
third chair right
the
here.
next card tells it all.
This is it. This is
See-
gonna be it.
They might actually present the envelopes in the reverse order now for 1, 2, 3. They might put up the first overall next. I think that's the way they did it when the Edmonton Oilers won. Like they alternated it because of just what you said, Saul. If yeah, because New Jersey would have had to be first or second, and if they're second, that means Montreal is first. Oh no,
There we go.
No,
Here's our lottery
Coyotes could be
history right
first.
here.
Okay, so yeah, here's the history of the lottery in the last 10 years. So this year we don't know. Last year Buffalo was the number 1 seed, had the number 1 pick. In 2020, Detroit was the number 1 seed, but the Rangers had the number 1 pick. So you can see here, there's a lot of movement, not a ton of consistency. It was really only 2021 and 2018 that it stayed. And of course, both times were Buffalo. Shawn's behind the Mac, fist pumping. But Shawn, how are the Sabres doing today? I don't know. They're on an
Yeah, how are
upward.
they in the
They're on an
second?
upward
Oh, wait.
trajectory.
They're on the
I don't want to roast you
eighth
too
tee
badly.
box right now, lining up for a par 4.
This is the longest commercial break of all time.
Oh no, they play this one. They do this every year. They build the drama for the
But
final.
again, the other
figure.
thing that it shows, though, if you look at those picks, and again, how many franchise-changing players and how many of those players are in the playoffs, and I know you can't count Owen Power. He literally
too
played a
soon.
handful of games. Too soon. Lafreniere, playoffs, and making an impact. Matthews, McDavid, Ekblad, McKinnon. So you got to, I mean, it takes time for these guys once they get drafted to get their team into the playoff path and the playoff mode. So even if this falls to number 1 for the Coyotes, that doesn't mean
It
they're in the
doesn't,
playoffs
but I
next
think
year.
Coyotes
But
fans
I think
are.
this is the start
Yeah.
of getting
Here
them
we
to the
go,
playoffs.
guys. We're back.
Here we
Okay,
go.
I think. Okay.
This is it.
This
Oh,
is it.
Everybody ready? Everybody got their champagne and
It's
or
the Coyotes.
Kleenex?
Oh, the Coyotes will pick third.
Craig.
Ruined it.
Oh,
Uh,
all right. Coyotes.
Look at Bill on TV.
Coyotes picking at number 3, which is
Coyote. Wah,
historically-
wah.
that has not been good.
I feel deflated. I mean, top 3, great.
Hurry. But again, Craig and I, once we wrap this up, we start talking about Coyotes and their top 3 picks over history. Craig?
The Coyotes
Yeah.
have picked third before, and as a reminder to everybody watching this, who have the Coyotes picked third before? Dylan Strome, Kyle Turris, and we
Both of
all
three.
know how great those picks worked out. Montreal, who was in the Stanley Cup final
A year ago.
a year ago, and now they're picking first overall.
So
Put your tinfoil hats on.
tinfoil hats on. Draft is in Montreal. Canadian City. Montreal is the first pick at home in their own building. The Montreal Canadiens win the draft lottery. The New Jersey Devils win the second spot. And your Arizona Coyotes are drafting third. Champagne bottles on hold for another year.
That's so sad. We had whistles. We had this clappy thing. We were all excited. I mean, top 3 is better than nothing. And let's bring it back to positive. Like Craig said, like he said in his story today at gophnx.com. But it's not the year necessarily. This isn't the Bedard year. There's not a ton of difference between 1 and 4, maybe. You don't know that. You do have a better chance at 1 and 2.
The positives are going to get a good player 3. There is absolutely no. But can't they win the goddamn thing once? Like
Never.
Again? Like you got that sense, and I don't. Like, again? Like you just got to look. Can we hold serve? Can we stay where we're supposed to be once? Can we do that? Can that be a little moral victory for us? Like a Coyote fan, every single time they got to fall backwards. Like we worked as a group at PHNX all year for today. I mean, we knew it was a rebuild. We knew it from August. We knew it every game we sat here 8-1 ass kicking. We knew it losing 10 straight. We knew this. This is what we were waiting for. Like, can't they win this one? And they can't.
This is all because they went to overtime in that one game.
Well, but they came back from 3 deficits of 3+ goals in the final 4 games of the season.
You're right.
They got 5 points in those 3 games when they should have got 0. Had they got the 0, they'd be picking Shane
second.
right now.
Worse, they're picking second. And again, when I will go back, we can listen to the show. I said at that time, everybody that's jumping up and down and all happy that they won the game, remember that on May 10th.
Yeah,
because
I'm
it's not gonna be
remembering.
very
I think
important.
I might have been one of those people, and I'm
care?
remembering.
Do you care now that they beat the St. Louis Blues or went to overtime with St. Louis Blues and beat Nashville, Minnesota? No one cares. You wanted to pick first, and you didn't. Now, that's the negativity. We cleansed that and cleared it. The good news, honestly, is there are really good players in this draft in the top 3. And I think it is the top 3 that are separate from everybody. We've talked about Shane Wright, Logan Cooley, and we talked about this Yurov Slafkovsky. And if things go according to Hoyle, meaning the predictions, this year of Slafkovsky, I've talked to people around the league that say this guy could be a number 1. Like he's 6'3", 240, and he fits what Bill Armstrong's doing. And right now, if you take it across all predictions and platforms, he's a guy that's going to fall potentially to number 3. And I think that's a win for the Coyotes. I really do. I think that's a positive. If they can get Slafkovsky now at the 3 spot, I think that's a great pick for this team. And I think that's a building block that gets them through in the future. So I think this is good news, and we're going to leave it at that.
It could be, Petey. It really could. When you look at this draft, if they can get lucky next year, they're Chris Peter said this in my story. He thought not only Connor Bedard, who's supposed to be a franchise center, there are at least 3 people at the top of that draft that he said he'd rather have a crack at than anybody at the top of this draft. So maybe this is the year that you want to fall. But, everybody's sitting back thinking, yeah, that's okay, Craig. We're not going to win next year either because the Coyotes never win anything. Well, we'll see. At some point, the law of averages has to play in the Coyotes' favor, doesn't it? They're going to be in a similar position again next season. Maybe they'll get lucky. But I agree with you, Petey. I think they're going to get a good player. None of us is really going to know for 3 to 5 years if it's the best player or one of the best players in the draft. But they are tightly packed. They're going to get a good player. And as I said earlier, knowing Bill's pedigree, I'm looking for size. I think they're going to go size with this pick.
I just can't believe the deja vu moment that I'm having right now from 2015. This is almost the same thing that happened. The teams in 2015 and this team finished within a point of each other. They both were projected to have higher picks than they got. They both are going to pick, and did pick, third in the NHL draft. I hope that's where the similarities stop, because that number 3 pick was Dylan Strome, and this is not anything against Dylan Strome, because we've talked about this before, where at the time when they picked Dylan Strome, he was a large consensus the 3rd best player in that draft. You look back at that draft, who was taken right after Dylan Strome at number 4 was Mitch Marner for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Mitch Marner plays on a line with Austin Matthews. What's to say that Mitch Marner would have amazing success in Arizona? But, we've talked a lot about this in the last week. Hindsight's 2020. It just feels so deflating to again and again and again. And then look at New Jersey, who's had all this random lottery luck too. And New Jersey wasn't really any good this year. It's frustrating.
Yeah, but here's the difference from the last time that the Coyotes picked 3rd, the Dylan Strome year. That year for the entire season, it was McDavid and Eichel. That was it. And it was 1-2 McDavid, 2 was Eichel the entire season, no question. That was it. 3 was a drop-off. And again, what we're going to focus on now here at PHNX from now until July 8th is getting the best people on our show that are going to tell us who these picks are. And starts tomorrow with Corey Pronman, who puts out a list, watch draft. He knows these prospects. He watches all these players. He is going to be on our show live tomorrow, and we're going to ask him who falls to 3. And I think this is the perfect opportunity. So from now to July, you're going to know as a Coyote hockey fan what's out there, what it's going to do for this team in the future. Is it right? Is it Cooley? Or is it Slafkovsky? And again, that's 3 names. And when it was Eichel McDavid, it was 2 names.
Yep.
There's 3 names now. This Slafkovsky, I'm telling you, he came on late.
Yep.
This is the guy I'd love to see the Coyotes get at 3. I'd love it. And worst case, then, if he doesn't, it's Ryder Cooley dropping to 3.
Yeah,
so,
that's the thing, though, too. When you look at what New Jersey has at the center position, are they really going to go Cooley? I'm not sure New Jersey is going to pick Cooley when they've got a couple players already at the top of their depth chart at the center position. So he may not be there. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. I want to go back to something. Shawn, can you bring the Dave Henning comment back for a moment? He just commented a couple ago. I want to talk about what he just put up on the screen because it's a good point. Their odds of moving up and getting the 1st or 2nd were lower than their chances of being 4th, which is a drop. And this is something that I addressed in that story 2 days ago. How the hell is that even possible? Why are the odds of you moving down from your draft slot, the position in the standings, greater than your chances of moving up or even holding damn serve? That makes no sense. The NHL Draft Lottery still needs many tweaks. That is completely illogical when you look at that at face value.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. And it's just the story of the life of the Coyotes. It's just how it's been. It's so beyond anything that I could even put into words, that this just keeps happening again and again. However, all of that can be erased if 1 year from today, the Coyotes are winning the draft lottery and we are preparing for Connor Bedard to come to the desert. So who knows? Again, I said it at the start, I'd rather not pick number 1 this year and pick number 1 next year. I know one doesn't prelude another, but if we have to keep sacrificing to the hockey gods somehow. Hockey gods, I don't know what else you want. Please, please let us know because there's been so much that Coyotes fans have had to suffer through, and it just feels unfair at times. Oh, but man, yeah, that Connor Bedard in 2023. Let's start coming up with some phrases. I see #regard for Bedard. I had one. It was what was it? Something for Connor. Cooling for Connor? No, that was cooling for Cooley. I don't know. Give us your tank for... Yeah, people are saying it's because I forgot my crystals.
We're talking tank already?
Well, we got another year of this, so...
Are we? Is this what's happening? We're blaming Leah because she forgot her crystals? Is that what's going on here?
Hard for Bedard. Bad for Bedard. AJ said next year's third pick will be better than Wright, so even if this happens next year, AZ is all good. That's a good point, AJ. Thank you, AJ, from DNVR Avalanche, who isn't watching Avalanche hockey these days because they just swept the Nashville Predators.
They're on vacation for a couple days.
Nice.
And I just looked at the Devils centers right now. Their center depth, it's all kids under 25. They're young, they're small, and they're quick and high energy and high skill. Do they need another Logan? Not Logan Cooley. Do they need another Shane Wright? Logan Cooley? Is that the player they need? No. There is a chance that those guys that we've been talking about 1, 2 all season could be there at 3 for the Coyotes. They really could.
That's true.
We'll see. I still think Shane Wright's going number 1 overall. I'm not sure who's going number 2. I don't think with New Jersey in that slot it's going to be Logan.
Yeah,
Cooley.
I think Montreal. I think you're right. I think he's taking Montreal takes Shane.
They need
Wright.
centers. They need centers.
Yep. They need center. Then and that's the consensus number 1 pick for the entire season. He's going to be picked first by the Montreal Canadiens, and then I don't know. Slavkovsky could go to Jersey. I could see that, and then we talk about Logan Cooley, a player that Chris Peters had talked about being a potential 1 at some point, falls to 3. So, again, sucks that they didn't win. There's going to be a good player there for 3.
There will.
And there's something to be excited about. You've still got Gunther doing what he's doing. We've already talked about the college free agents, or not free agents, college players they picked up at the end of the season. How many Roadrunners played on this team last year? How many defensemen they have under the age of 25? Like, it's the start. And I know the next thing on your calendar as a Coyote fan is circle that July 7th through 9th draft and start getting ready to see who the hell they're going to pick.
I want to read, we got a super chat from Faisal. Thank you so much. They said, I need an IPA, and so does Craig. I think we all could use a drink after this one.
How poor plenty. That's what happens with an afternoon show. It just snuck up on us. I've got water here. Where's our beer and wine and all that?
You know,
I don't know.
Isn't it funny how fast it goes too? Because I've been prepping all day for this, and then bang, it's over just like that.
Yeah, speaking of that, can we see one of the graphics we had? And we've had so many of them, we didn't get to use any of them. Can we see the top number 3 picks over the last 20 years?
Yes.
Like, these are the top players that were picked at 3. And I will say this. So you're talking Jonathan Toews was picked at 3. Leon Draisaitl, MVP, leads the league in scoring. Jonathan Huberdeau carrying his team in the playoffs right now. Miro Heiskanen, one of the most dynamic, exciting defensemen for the Dallas Stars right now. And Jay Bouwmeester, I put him in there just for his longevity and the amount of games that he actually played. But
you ran out of guys,
good players at 3.
You ran out of guys after Miro Heiskanen.
Well, then we got into the Matt Duchene, Goodbranson, Bogosian, Jack Johnson. Like, that was tough. Those top 4 are pretty damn good players.
Yep, no doubt.
I mean, damn good. They win. Jonathan Toews wins cups, and he's a captain of the team.
And Leon Draisaitl, looking at that draft, I don't know, he could have even gone higher than he did in that one.
Yeah, that was Sam Reinhart.
Eric redrafted. Yeah,
Aaron Ekblad. It was Aaron Ekblad's draft in 14.
And look what Huberdeau did with Florida this year. So there's a lot of good hope in this image.
You think Edmonton? That was the 2011 draft.
Yeah,
where it was Huberdeau at 3rd, Gabriel Landeskog at 2. They didn't win the lottery. Who won the lottery that year? Edmonton Oilers with the Nuge, Ryan Nugent Hopkins. Do you think Ryan Nugent? Would you take Landeskog, Huberdeau, or Nugent Hopkins if you had a redraft right now? Well, he'd fall to 3. So again, you just don't know. And they lost the lottery that year, and everybody was disappointed. And Colorado ends up with Landeskog. I think they're fine, and I think this is gonna. They're gonna look back at this draft, in this redraft. I'm telling you. Well, I'm gonna call it today, and we'll put it in the archive, put on the time code. That 4 years from now, they're gonna go, oh, the Coyotes got the really good pick here. If they redrafted, the Coyotes pick would go first. I'm telling you, there's still things to be excited about right now.
Okay, I like positive when positive PD comes.
That was
Positive PD. We need shirts that say positive PD, actually. But just more to the point, like again, this is not the year where Patrick Kane's at the top of the draft. This is not the year where Connor McDavid is at the top of the draft, where you look and say, "Oh God, Dylan Strome, Kyle Turris." No, it's again, there's not that franchise player at the top of this draft. Shane Wright looks like he's going to be a good player, probably a number one center, but again, they're so tightly packed that you just don't know. So you can't get. I don't think you can get as upset about falling to number 3 this year as you could in those years when there was clearly a franchise game-changing, franchise-chasing, city-changing player like there was in those 2 years when Patrick Kane and Connor McDavid went first overall.
Yeah, so I don't know. We should all take a collective breath here. Somebody said still getting a top 3 pick is exciting, Jacob said in the chat. Yes, Jacob, thank you for bringing us back to earth because you're right. It is really exciting. Even just those moments where oh my gosh, the Coyotes are in the top 3, not even just the top 4. That was a really exciting moment. So we have a lot to be positive about. It's a lot to be excited about. And we'll see, because now it's up to the Coyotes team next year to tank for that one. But let's not even get to that now. We'll just focus on what's right in front of us this year.
Positive PD.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more with the positive PD stuff, because as I look at it too, and that's how they fit. And it is the development. It is the scouting staff that does make a difference. And we talked about Mitch Marner being picked after Strome. There is no guarantee that if Mitch Marner is playing in this organization at this time without the people around him and playing on a line with Austin Matthews, that he becomes the player that he is today. Mm-hmm. So I think it's imperative that Bill Armstrong relies in the process, meaning the people he's hired to build what his vision is. What is a Bill Armstrong team? Build it. And I don't care look at Blake Wheeler. Blake Wheeler, the Coyotes picked at 5. And I remember, and this is a true story, I sat there and looked through my guide going, who? Like I flipped pages. He wasn't in the top 50. Who's Blake Wheeler? Well, Blake Wheeler's a hell of a good right winger that drives the net hard. He's a captain of his team. He's a leader of the Winnipeg Jets. He would look great in a Coyote uniform right now. But on that day, you go, whoa. What's that pick? So as long as they hold true to what their plan is and what fits the Coyotes mold and what the team they want to build is, this is going to be fine. And if it's big and strong, there's a big and strong defenseman out there, and there's a big strong winger out there, and there's even a couple of centermen that are well over 6 feet that might fill the mold, and maybe they get picked at 25 or 32 or wherever they're going to pick in those last 2 picks. They have so many opportunities to get the guys they want that fit in those brackets, like Tim Bernhardt told us, that I think they're going to be fine in the draft. It's okay that it's 3rd. It's going to be okay. Of any year, I'm telling you, this is the year to go. It's okay. It's okay.
And I want to go back to something AJ from DNVR Avalanche said. Feels like a bummer now, but whoever gets drafted at 3 is Arizona's top prospect immediately. Franchise gets better no matter what. So he's right about that. And you look at how bad Colorado was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I know you're right.
He said Landeskog and McKinnon. Maybe this is our Landeskog this year, and the McKinnon is coming next year, but even more so.
And how painful and what they went through. That wasn't that long ago.
It's not.
And AJ can tell you that those lean years in Colorado were lean. I mean, they were bad. And it just took a couple of drafts, a couple of good prospects, and you get a couple of good free agents around them, throw in a goaltender and a coach, and boom, away you go. And now, I tell you what, they're rolling in these playoffs. And all the teams that we said on our show, how brilliant we looked a week ago, some of those teams are struggling. The Colorado Avalanche are not one of them. And right now they're going to get healthy, which is huge right now. They're not banged up other than Kemper. Kemper's got a few days before he has to play again. So things look bright for the Colorado Avalanche right now.
But the Colorado Avalanche got Nathan McKinnon. You still need that guy at the top.
Year.
So
right.
Colorado still got lucky and got the top pick. You don't get that guy. The entire narrative of the Colorado Avalanche changes. Cale Makar is a great player at number 4. Obviously, that redraft would be really interesting to see. He might go number 1 overall. But
he would for sure, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
he's the best number 4. He might be one of the best.
He's been ridiculous in this postseason.
He might be the best number 4 pick all time. Well, in the last 20 years, for sure. Cale Makar. Do you have that number 4 graphic? The draft.
Yes.
There's the top at number 4. Look at Nicholas Backstrom was a number 4 pick. Not a
Wow.
bad player. Stanley Cup winner. Cale Makar, maybe. Is he going to win a Stanley Cup someday? Maybe. These are all number 4. So, again, it just shows there are and is hope
Yes.
after number 1. And that year, the Cale Makar, I mean, we're talking Nico Hischier, Nolan Patrick, and Miro Heiskanen went ahead of Cale Makar,
Yeah.
who is arguably the best defenseman
And
in the
meanwhile,
league.
the other, can you pull that up one more time? Sorry. The other number 4 picks on that list, just for the audio listeners, Mitch Marner, Alex Pietrangelo, and Ryan Johansson. So a handful of really good players. Pietrangelo's won a Stanley Cup. So a lot of Stanley Cup winners on that list. You just never know what could happen later.
Brady Tkachuk and Evander Kane are a couple guys that didn't quite make the right on the fringe of that list. There's some really good players, and that's at 4. And we say it every year. And hindsight's 20/20 on the draft, and Tim Bernhardt said it too. If you redrafted every draft over the last 20 years, the top 10 would look completely different. I'm telling you, every single year the top 10 would look different. They just would. So it's a matter of getting your scouts, your general manager, everybody on the same page and getting the right guy for your team. That's what's so important here. So even at 3, that's a franchise-changing player for this team in particular. And add them with Dylan Gunther, who right now is one of the top scorers in the Canadian juniors. Yeah. Like Matthias Michelli, we saw how he grew. Carcone, see how he grew. You've got 5 defensemen under 25. The pieces are starting to fall in place. Not for next year, and not probably the year after that. But 3, 4, 5 down, the building blocks are starting to come. So there is hope. There is hope, Coyotes fans. Even though the ping pong balls didn't fall the right way today, there's hope.
Yeah, and they can get a lot of good players with the picks that they have. Again, they have 7 picks in the top 45 of this draft. And, I mean, I've said this so many times, and I'm going to get a lot deeper into this as the offseason rolls along, but this is the most complete, most experienced scouting staff that I have seen in Arizona Coyotes history. Does that mean that they're going to execute on those picks? Nope, because it's still somewhat of a crapshoot when you're talking about 18-year-old kids. But they've given themselves numbers. They've put the right people in place. They've invested in the right area. So they've given themselves a much better chance to hit on some of those picks. And they will hit on some of those picks. So we'll start to see some of the building blocks in the years to come. Not, again, like Petey said, not next year, but 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, you're going to start to get a sense of the Coyotes' future. And hopefully at some point, this team gets lucky and gets that game-changing center at the top of their lineup that they haven't had since Jeremy Roenick left town.
Well, first of all, and somebody write a note down somewhere, make sure Leah brings the damn crystals next year. Because, again, if it's going to happen, next year's year, we need, next year, start getting
We
your
might
Lucky
have to get
Charms
out
now.
the sage next year.
We'll get the sage, do a clearing, because the next year is utterly important. And Elliot Richardson brought up a good point a few minutes ago about how you talked about the pieces falling into place and you don't see how you can have hope. Here's a concern. And I know I've been
Negative
positive
PD.
PD. Positive PD all along. Going to be a little negative here.
Okay.
Here's a concern. This team was kind of good. And this team was kind of good without a lot of guys in the lineup. What happens when these guys come back? And now you've got a McBain, who I think is going to be a good center, whether they put him in Tucson or in this team or not next year. Nathan Smith brought a spark to this team. Michelli, Carcone all brought sparks, but that meant there was a lot of NHL players that didn't play. What happens when they're back and everybody's healthy? And now you're talking about Connor Tibbins and whether Chychrun gets traded or not. If he's gone, he's going to bring pieces in return. This team, to me, today, in May, planning for next October, does not look like a 31 or a 32 place team. I'm afraid they might be a little bit too good.
We'll see about that.
But
let's not cross that bridge right now.
But then again, it goes back.
Right now, I want to focus on something else.
You got to be bottom 11 and win the lottery.
Starting a new hashtag, Leah's fault.
What?
Connor
Oh
Geeky.
my-
Did you see Connor Geeky? Who said Connor Geeky?
Somebody did
Antonio.
mention Connor Geeky.
Connor Geeky. I like Connor Geeky too, and this brings up the other point. When you talk about size up the middle, Connor Geeky's another guy. He's over 6 feet tall.
What a great
He's
name,
about 190
too.
pounds right now, and he's only getting bigger. The kid. I tell you what, the kid. One thing I like about Connor Geeky.
There it is. Leah's fault.
Connor Geeky's got swagger. He's got the great salad. He's got the mullet, and he's got swagger. I don't mind Connor Geeky. I don't think he's going to be a 3. I think he's going to be a top 10 pick. But again, you talk about a size up the middle. Who knows? Draft for need. What fits your team? And maybe it's Connor Geekie.
Leah's not happy with me right now.
Craig,
I'm
it's
gonna
not
pay
my
for this.
Right now.
I'm
fault.
gonna pay for this. I'm chirping you. Your crystals had no impact on the day. Let's just put it that way.
Well, we'll
okay?
see
Your
because
crystals had
last
no
time I
impact.
brought them to the office, actually so one day I brought them to the office and the Suns won and the D-backs won and the Coyotes won. Maybe it wasn't so good that the Coyotes won. But
So you're saying it was your fault?
you know what? I'm not confirming or denying any responsibilities. But we'll see how the Suns will do tonight because they are playing in Game 5. It's a really big game, and we got the NHL playoffs up here on this screen, which, by the way, if you're a Coyotes fan, you probably want Carolina to lose so you can have a higher pick in the first round. So we'll keep an eye on that as it goes. That's also, I think, in Game 5 tonight. So a lot of big Game 5s going on tonight, and if you want to get in on some betting action, you can do so at the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And this week, new customers can bet $5 on any team to win and get $150 in free bets. If they do, you can also turn a small bet into a big payday during the NBA playoffs with same-game parlays. And right now, all customers can place a same-game parlay with 3 or more legs and get a free bet back up to $25 if one leg doesn't hit. So be sure to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code PHNX, bet $5 on any NBA team to win their game. Get $150 in free bets if they do. That's 21 and over. Arizona only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And by the way, I'm sure they'll do this during the NHL draft because they did a lot of this in the NFL draft. There's like draft props that you can bet on, which is crazy. So keep an eye on the DraftKings Sportsbook app for that. And Petey, you're talking a lot about, are the Coyotes going to be better than we think next year? We'll see what the DraftKings odds are for the team futures.
Oh, yeah, I won that one this year, by the way. It was plus over 65 points.
Oh, yeah?
And I took the under.
Oh, yeah, the point
Yay.
totals. You
Forgot
can do
about
the
that.
point totals, but also just the team odds. And coming into this year, the Coyotes had the worst odds of any team. So we'll see how they're ranked going into next year on
Worst
the
odds to
DraftKings
win the
Sportsbook.
cup?
Yeah. But the bottom. I mean, everyone.
Okay, I'm not telling people what to do with their money. Don't bet on that.
No, I'm not saying it, but you can just
Not
say
next year.
they say they have the worst odds. So
Okay.
maybe are they going
Seriously.
to have the worst odds again? And I think I can recall a time we were sitting here before the beginning of this past season saying, I don't know, is this team as bad as we think? And then they were for a stretch of time.
The roller
So.
coaster has finally ended. It's over. Like the roller coaster of this season, I think today officially ends. This is
I'm
it.
just dying at all these hashtags that are coming up. There's crystals and hashtags now. It's great. This is good stuff.
Coyotes
Jay-
future, it's hashtag crystal clear.
Oh, I
That's
love
good.
that one.
That's really good, actually.
Hashtag crystal clear. Love it.
Petey, you know who's here in the bowels of GRA with me right now?
Give up. Stan?
Nope, it's the governor, Jerry Brown.
The governor,
Brown's
Jerry
in the
Brown?
house.
The governor, Jerry Brown.
Sitting
Wow.
to the left
Who's
of me.
that?
Yep.
He's another
My
former beat
Coyotes
writer.
mentor. My Coyotes mentor, Jerry Brown from the old East Valley Tribune, sitting in the house here.
Another former beat writer and
That's right.
travel warrior reporter in the olden days.
In the olden days, back in
governor.
America West. Yep.
Wow, what the hell is it? Wow. Yeah, sorry I didn't make the trip out to Glendale with you there. It's better. Although,
No, you're
again, I'm
not.
still
No,
mad
you're
about
not.
the beer, but I'm going to have a beer in a minute.
Yeah, that's what you guys are going to be doing right while I go to the interview. I should probably head down to that interview very soon, by the way. So I'm going to exit the show for a little bit and leave you guys to carry the mail for a while here. And I'll be back probably with Bill Armstrong, it appears. He has no other post-news conference obligations, so he should be able to join us pretty quickly.
Okay, awesome.
fantastic.
So, Craig, we'll
All
see
right,
you in a
guys.
little bit.
See you in a little bit, guys.
All right. So Craig is departing right now. He's going to head to Bill's press conference, and then hopefully we'll get Bill live on our show, which would be great to ask him his immediate reaction to number
Yeah.
3. You have to imagine they prepared for all scenarios.
Yeah, and honestly, like for these guys, their work has been ongoing. I mean, this is just a formality to see. Like they knew they were going to pick high in the draft, so they've been watching these players. They've been watching that top 5, 10. They know those players extremely well. This is just a formality, and honestly, now the pressure's almost off for Bill Armstrong now because now the
Yeah.
pressure's on. It's on Montreal and New Jersey. Like,
Yeah.
he's going to know. Like, Bill's going to have his list. He's going to have his 1 to 5, and he's going to go, okay, I'm going to get one of these players. Like, he's going to get the top 3 players on his board. He's going to get one of them. And honestly, he might not have them the same as Montreal and New Jersey. He might get the best player for this team at 3. So I think they're extremely happy with what they have to do. But now, it's not the 3rd pick you're wondering about. It's the one they're going to get from Carolina. Is that 25? Is 31 from Colorado? Those are the picks that magically need to be, like, those are the ones they got to get to hit. Like, if you can get one of those to hit, or one of those 2nd round picks to hit where you find the guy, wow. Like, Pasternak got drafted in the 20s. Like, if you find a Pasternak, oh boy, howdy.
Yeah.
And that's where the scouts earn their money. And that's the staff he's assembled. You got to get a couple of these guys right in this draft. Out of these high picks in the first 3 rounds, you got to get a couple of them. Not all of them. Got to get a couple. And I think they like where their tiers are. I really think this is going to be, I mean, I'm knocking on wood, this is going to be the best draft for a Coyotes team in 20 years. That's not saying much, by the way. So
but
I don't
statistically, with as many picks as they have to hit on some of them. And that was something that Tim Bernhardt said when he was here with us last week. There's not every team walks away from every draft saying we got our guy. And obviously it doesn't always work out that way. But when you can say we got our guy, when there's 3 picks in the first round, and granted, we have the Coyotes have Colorado's pick, so that could end up being a really late pick based on the trajectory they're on now. By the way, Carolina's up 1-0 on Boston right now, but it's only the first period of Game 5. But still,
clever.
3 picks in the first round.
Yeah.
That, like,
but again,
imagine.
you can't miss though, because Boston did that at 14, 15, 16, and only one of those are playing.
And who'd they pick?
Nebraska is the only one of those 3.
Who
that
were
is
the
playing.
other 2? Do you remember?
Exactly.
Okay. Wow, I liked it better when Positive Petey made his appearance. Where'd you go?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure it out, because what makes it a draft player a success? Like, what is it? Like, they got to play in the league. First of all, that's a given. They've got to play, so that eliminates a lot of the guys that the Coyotes picked. But is Oliver Ekman-Larsson, is that a win? See, I count that as a win. He was picked 6th overall in his draft year. Plays over, what is he at now? He's at over 800 games played. He was the captain of the team. That's a win. At 6.
Yeah.
Michael Bodker was picked in the first round at 8. Okay, Michael Bodker isn't Connor McDavid. I get it, but he scores 2 game-winning overtime goals in the 2012 playoffs. Without those goals, that team doesn't go on to the Western Finals. Again, that's a win. So you got to be really careful how you would rate these drafts. And even Dylan Strome, he's an everyday player, first-line center for the Chicago Blackhawks. Didn't pan out here, and we didn't see the success of him here in the Valley. He's a first-line center with Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat. Okay, he's a first-line center in the National Hockey League. What do you want from him?
Yep.
So, again, I think there's undue pressure on where these guys fall in the draft. If you draft a player that plays in your everyday roster in your 20, it's a good draft pick. That's what I think.
Yeah.
And I think they need to find a couple of those in this first 3 rounds that fall into that as everyday NHL players. And I'll go with Barrett Hayton, that people say at 5, gosh, Barrett Hayton. Barrett Hayton's an everyday player right now in the NHL, and I think his bar is slightly going up every year because he's got to stay consistent and he can't get hurt. But he's at 5. If he becomes, even if he's a 3, even if he's a number 3 center for this team at a 5th overall pick, and he can play that way consistently for a decade, it's a win. It's a win because when this team's ready to have a team that's competing for a Stanley Cup, they'll slot the number 2 center and the number 1 center through the draft or through free agency, and Barrett Hayton can play number 3, and that builds a team. So I think everybody can't be the league's leading scorer. It can't. There's one guy that leads the league in scorer, but every team needs 20-plus players to be a part of their everyday moving forward. And I think that's where we get lost a little bit in the draft. Everybody wants that home run. You just need a guy that can play every day and becomes part of your roster and contributes to the team. And those little pieces are what help you get over the hump and help you get into the playoffs and help you win.
Definitely. Wow, that was a good rant by you. And by the way, staying on a little bit of negativity, but also because the Coyotes are picking 3rd, maybe a little bit of positivity for Coyotes fans. There's been a lot of number 1 overall picks.
Look at those names. By the way,
I know.
I didn't mean to interrupt the Boston names
I know.
between AJ and Steven Weiss trying to hit those names. Wait, yeah.
Yeah,
Who?
don't have me try and pronounce that. I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they traded all over. I'll trade it up to get those picks too. Whoops.
Craig just texted us, we'll get Bill fast, which great. So
Okay.
Bill Armstrong coming soon.
By the way, and great, because we all want to hear from Bill. These are one of those things that happened on live programming.
Yes.
How the hell are we going to do that? Is he going to wear the headset?
You know,
And then we're interviewing him?
we'll figure it out as we go, just like the Coyotes are
Oh,
going to
Lord.
figure out what to do. But I wanted to bring it back to not every number one pick hits in history. And this is Craig Morgan's list. So if you have a problem with this list, take it up with @CraigSMorgan on Twitter.com. So these are Craig's worst number one overall picks in the lottery era. Number 1, Rick DiPietro. Number 2, Nail Yakupov. Number 3, Patrick Stefan. Number 4, Chris Phillips. And 5, Eric Johnson. All of those players were number 1 picks, and I know they're over the course of 25 years or so, so not everyone is relevant to certain people depending on, their age, but those were number 1 picks, and those players aren't players that I would ever have guessed were first overall picks.
Yeah, it's tough. And the one Craig and a little like Rick DiPietro, I thought he had the potential to be the guy. He just couldn't stay healthy. Like he was all about the injuries. Like I don't know about picking a goalie first overall. That's kind of risky, but I didn't hate the pick. And I'm with AJ. Like Eric Johnson, what do you want from him in his NHL career? Like he's still playing. Like how long ago was that draft? So by the way, AJ, that is Craig's list. Because
yes, that is why
it's Craig's list. I just got that.
Craigslist.
Craigslist. It's
yeah.
Craigslist. Oh. We should start an app. But right, Eric Johnson, I don't think's on that list because he still plays. Like, what do you want from a draft pick? Look at his career and how long and the longevity and how long he's been an everyday player in the National Hockey League. I don't know how he fits on that pick. So again, send all hate mail to @CraigSMorgan. The DiPietro one's injury. The second one there, Nail Yakupov. Yeah, that's a miss. That's a swing and a miss. Swing and a miss with Nail Yakupov.
But you have to remember though, at the time, he was a highly touted prospect. So it's not like everyone was sitting there saying who.
No,
right?
Again, you're right. You're right, and that's
what Craig was saying. Maybe some teams are going to feel pressured to take Shane Wright at number 1. I mean, there's definitely a thing where teams feel pressured to take, maybe, I don't know, I'm not inside a scouting office or GM's office, but where teams might feel pressured to take that player that's considered the best player in the draft, even if they're not either the best player in the draft or maybe they're not the best player for your team. And that's what'll be really interesting about this draft with New Jersey moving up. And there's a comment I saw from somebody like maybe New Jersey will take a defenseman, and you look at Montreal, they have a lot of small forwards, skilled forwards, but you look at Cole Caulfield, like that's a smaller player. Do they want to draft a smaller 5'10" player in Logan Cooley?
Yeah.
I mean, Shane Wright's 6'1", so kind of some size there, but not incredible size. What do they want? What is their priority? And all of those things are going to factor in to what falls to the Coyotes at 3, and maybe at 3 the Coyotes will even have a hard decision to make, and maybe they'll have 2 guys that they really like, and they have to it's actually going to be an abundance of riches for them. You never know.
Yeah. It goes back to drafting not by the headlines, and I've said this tongue in cheek too. I think, Leah, you and I could go to the draft floor, buy the Hockey News on the way in, and we can draft the first 10 picks. Because this is the first 10 picks. Okay, I'll just follow the magazine and go 10 for 10. It's the next pick. It's 11 through the end of the 7th round. Those are the hard picks. Not everybody sees those top 10. Everybody knows the top 10. Everybody's talked about those top 10. Shane Wright, Logan Cooley, talked about them. But it's can you find that Connor Garland in the 3rd round? Can you find
Brian Rust?
Can you find that player in the 5th, 6th, 7th round?
Michael
Ben
Bunting?
McCartney is a 7th rounder.
Michael Bunting?
Exactly. Can you find that player?
Yeah.
And that's where your scouting staff and GM, that's how important that is. And so, again, that's why you got to tune into the draft. It's not just Cooley, Wright, Slafkovsky.
Braden Point, that's another good one. A later pick.
Yeah, and if you get Braden Point, hoisted the cup.
Yeah.
Because he's a big part of what they do offensively and a highly gifted, skilled player. 3rd round pick. So I think this year for the Coyotes, yes, that number 3 player is going to be a great player. He's going to be a guy that helps this franchise. But I think they're going to be able to get more players in later rounds because of their scouting staff and because of the number of picks that they have. By the way, we have streamers. I forgot we had streamers and decorations.
I know.
You can't see our really fancy decoration.
I know, and I worked so hard to tape it down there, but there's like NHL confetti that Petey actually bought at the beginning of the season to celebrate the Coyotes' first win because they had gone winless in 11. I think they ended up winning their first game. Was it a show we did at home?
Yeah.
Or was Craig here and he didn't want to have a party?
It was against Seattle. Shawn, did you rebuild that top 11? Did you actually put the teams in? Because we should probably tell people, maybe people are coming in late.
Recapping what's happened so far. Yeah, we can definitely recap what's happened so far. And if he doesn't have the graphic, that's okay because we can talk about it. So Montreal stayed at number 1. New Jersey jumped all the way up to number 2. The Coyotes fell to 3. And then I need to find the updated list because I only have the old list now. Do you have the updated one? I have not been on top of this. Look at you bringing up topics when we're not prepared.
Was Phil? Yeah, who is that then? 4 Seattle, 5 Philly, 6 Chicago.
Chicago didn't move. That was a big one, I think.
Yep.
Okay, so we got Montreal at number 1, New Jersey at number 2, Arizona number 3, Seattle 4, Philadelphia 5, Columbus 6, Ottawa 7, Detroit 8, Buffalo 9, and Anaheim 10, and nobody else had moved in these. So San Jose 11, Columbus 12, Islanders 13, Winnipeg 14, Vancouver 15. 16 was the Vegas one that transfers to Buffalo. Yep. So
Buffalo has 2 picks in the top 16.
Yeah. Here, should we get producer Shawn's input on Buffalo? How do you feel, Shawn?
I mean, they've given me no reason to believe that they're going to do anything with these picks because the one pick that they did have that was a franchise player now plays for the Golden Knights. So I don't know.
Shawn is also jaded, much like how Coyotes fans feel. I think Buffalo Sabres fans probably feel very similarly.
Well, Craig is out there doing his job, and I'm just shuffling through our graphics and seeing something. We've done the worst number 1 picks of all time. Did we do the top?
We didn't actually show it. I mentioned some of them before, but
because I wanted to do the number 1 because this is, again, you talk about how important it is to get one at some point in your franchise. It's kind of important.
Yeah.
And you see those top 3 have all lifted the Stanley Cup.
Yep.
And the next 2 hope to raise the Stanley Cup, and Austin will do it when he becomes an Arizona Coyote in 2028 when he becomes a Coyote.
Tinfoil hats, put them back on.
The back-to-back games. ASU will host the national championship at 3, followed by the Coyotes at 7, with your captain Austin Matthews spinning the wheel. And then can we go to the top number 2 picks in the lottery era? These are some really good hockey players too. Like this at number 2, Victor Hedman. That's a good hockey player. Yeah. And he's Evgeny Malkin. We talked about the ability to get high picks, and it doesn't have to be a 1 pick. You just need Crosby. Malkin's a 2. You got Marc-Andre Fleury. Drew Doughty was a number 2 pick for the LA Kings, wins the cup. Barkov's a number 2 pick, and Gabriel Landeskog's a number 2 pick. All of those guys are leading their teams right now. Like right now. So, yeah, 2, 3. I think the Coyotes should be happy at 3. There are some really good players in this year's draft. They are going to help this Coyotes team. And now the next step is the draft. Leah, where are you going for the draft?
Hopefully Montreal.
Wow.
We'll see. July 7th and 8th is the draft. Today is May 10th. So we're just under 2 months away. And we mentioned it before, but we will have Corey Proman on the show tomorrow, which is great timing because let's start getting into these prospects now. And by the way, I know AJ's been in our comments all the time. I want to give him a shout out. He and Rudo do a great job following prospects. So we'll get some insight from them in the coming months as well. They have a lot of great insight, but we'll have Corey Proman on the show. We're going to get Craig Button back on the show. We're going to get Chris Peters back on the show and a surprise draft expert in June. So stay tuned for that. That's what we're going to be talking about for the next 2 months because
a lot of draft stuff.
But it's all about the future. And Carolina just scored another goal.
Tony DeAngelo,
former Arizona Coyote.
And Annette Antiranta, former Coyote.
I feel Carolina, I think, has the most former Coyotes of all the teams in the playoffs right now.
How's my picks going here? I know AJ and their staff picked Carolina. I took Boston.
I took Boston too.
We'll
see. I
We'll see.
haven't been great on my picks so far, but Craig mentioned the story that he published today about, it's okay that the Coyotes don't pick number one, and if you need some therapy, if you need to take a deep breath and calm down and read that story at gophnx.com, because it does make a lot of great points, and he did talk to some of the draft experts that I just mentioned that we've had on our show and will be coming back on our show. So if you want to read that and you haven't yet, head over to gophnx.com. If you're not a member, sign up today, get an annual membership. I combine that with shirt because you can get a shirt when you do. You can get either this one, the Cody the Coyote. Petey's wearing his PHNX shirt. We also have hats. And then members also get weekly deals on merchandise as well, and access to the members only Discord where we're chatting in there every single day. So there's a lot of great perks to becoming a member. Join the family. The Suns are on their playoff run. Gerald is out at every single Suns game, home and away. So tons and tons of great content there for gophnx.com. So join the family. A lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, and then we start getting ready for the draft because, and I'll say this, we're continue the ad. If you want to talk about hockey in the state of Arizona, there's not a lot of places to hear about it. And between now and draft day, we have 5 shows a week. Between now and July, 3 live shows, 2 audio podcasts between now and July, and we're going to beat this thing to death. You're going to know the draft inside and out. You're going to have your little draft guide on draft day. You're going to know who the Coyotes should pick. We're going to fit where they're going to fit in the roster. We might project the roster 5 years from now, which might actually be kind of fun.
That would be kind of
there's
fun.
A lot of fun things coming up between now and July, and we're just going to be talking hockey. We got a lot more playoff stuff. We got around the NHL stuff, and I just say it again. If you're a hockey fan in Arizona, whether it's Coyotes, ASU, Roadrunners, and I'll follow those Gila Monsters on their Wednesday night beer league too, but that's just me. They're probably not getting the traction everybody else is. This is the only place to hear it. There just isn't any other hockey outlet in this state. So please listen in, grab a beer, relax, and listen and get prepared for the draft.
Yep.
Most importantly, grab the beer.
Yeah.
Which I did not do.
I know. I'm actually we should have had a cooler like on the floor at our feet.
Which I've done at home when we did those home shows at 8:30. Bring the cooler because I know I can't leave. And here's the other thing: we are not here by ourselves, right? Like it's studio in the daytime. We usually are not here during the daytime. There are people here, like right beyond that door, and I'm sure all of them are listening to our show, bringing Petey a beer right now. Like, right?
If you are in the office listening, please bring us beers.
Yeah. When does the Sun show start?
Not for a few hours.
Yeah. So there's no excuse, right?
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
Well, as we wait for Craig and Bill Armstrong to make an appearance, we do have the updated graphic of what's happened so far. And I know we just went over it, but just in case you're joining in or, need to remember. So the list on the left is the percentages to get the top picks. On the right is what actually happened. So as you can see, very little movement. To be honest, I'm surprised. New Jersey did make quite a leap from 5 to 2. But I do feel like in years past, there's been more movement than that, like just chaos.
Yeah, and I think that ability to only jump 10 spots was a huge adjustment.
And did you like that?
I do like.
I did like that too.
I don't think a team that gets 16th should get the first pick overall.
No.
If Vegas Golden Knights are playing for a playoff spot,
there are
right
teams
to the
that
last
almost
day,
made the playoffs.
Yeah, they shouldn't get the first overall pick. They shouldn't.
No.
You should get some kind of reward. I know it avoids the tank. I get it, but how come the Coyotes can't move up? How come it can't happen? Like never. One time the Coyotes moved up.
It's actually unbelievable. And just, while we're on the subject, let's go over some Arizona Coyotes drafting history. So we'll go backwards. So in 2021, the Coyotes finished 10th worst in the league, drafted 11. In 2019, finished 14th worst, drafted 14. So there was a year they didn't move.
Stayed the same. There you go.
2018, finished 3rd worst, drafted number 5, fell. 2017, finished 3rd worst, drafted number 7, fell to number 7 that they ended up trading away. 2016 finished 7th, picked 7th. That was a Clayton Keller pick. So look at that, Clayton Keller.
There we go.
Top player on the Coyotes this year. He was a 7th pick.
That was a good draft. That's Jacob Chickham, Cam Deneen. That was a good year.
Yeah, great year. 2015 finished 2nd worst, picked 3. That was the Dylan Strome. 2007 finished 2nd worst, fell to number 3. Picked Kyle Turris in that one, which we just talked about. That didn't work out so great. And then in 2004, finished 5th worst, did end up picking 5th. They picked Blake Wheeler in that draft. So if you just look at everything I just said, they either stayed the same or dropped. Never once. They're like, and I'm sure there's other teams that are sitting here on this day saying, why is luck never in our favor? But is there any team that's had worse draft lottery luck than the Arizona Coyotes? Truly.
I don't know. I'd like to think it's us. Eeyore. Oh, not so good.
Come on,
too.
Gary Bettman. If you're watching this right now, look at me.
So
where's this? Where's the luck, Gary? Come on. I know it's not a conspiracy. I know it's not rigged. But Gary Bettman loves the Arizona Coyotes and wants this team to succeed. So please, Gary, help us.
And so we just brought up another name here. You brought Kyle Turris up. And I've heard this, again, I get on my box again while we wait for Craig. Kyle Turris, oh, that's a bust. A bust at 3. Number 1, Patrick Kane. Clearly, cream of the crop. If you redrafted it, Patrick Kane is still number 1.
Yeah.
James Van Riemsdyk is 2. Kyle Turris is 3. Kyle Turris has played 776 games in the National Hockey League. Right after him, Thomas Hickey played 400. Carl Alzner played just over 600. And Sam Gagne, who bounced around all over the league, including here, played 900. Like, Turris is in that group. Like, he is 3, 4, 5, 6. He
so
is in that
hard.
group. There's not like there was, a franchise player right after him. It's what do you want everybody in the draft to be? You want them to be McDavid, McKinnon, Matthews. That's what you want. But you still need 20 players on a team. And if he plays, like, again, he's 776 games in the NHL is a win. That's a win in the draft pick. So it's not a bust. It's a win. Now, was it a win for the Arizona Coyotes? Probably not, because he left. Just like Blake Wheeler, not a win for the Arizona Coyotes.
Someone said maybe Ottawa, but they're more like no luck than bad luck.
That's fair.
That's true. But at least Ottawa has, made deep playoff runs, I feel like, more so in the last 15 years than the Arizona Coyotes have. Charles said next year we should sneak Leah into the lottery room and just put crystals all over the machine. What?
Did you read your text?
No, I did not.
I think that means read your text.
Okay. All right. Craig is calling in soon.
He's calling in.
And
Bill is calling in, and Craig is walking back to a setup now.
Okay.
So we're going to have Bill Armstrong.
Stay tuned.
Boys, there you go. Well, how about that?
Craig's calls. We haven't done a Craig's calls
Craig's
in a while,
calls.
except
Wow.
he's not going in the elevator anymore.
Literally got a little nervous.
What?
Because we got to interview Bill now. I wasn't ready.
But this will be Bill Armstrong's 3rd time on this show. He's one of our...
Is he a friend of the program?
I think that officially makes Bill Armstrong a friend of the program. So what are some things that you want to know from Bill right now? Like, if you're a general manager of a team and you just found, like, what now? And I guess that's something we can ask him.
Honestly, right now, the heavy lifting is done. Like, they've seen the players. That's the hard part. Seeing the players going to what Tim Bernhard said, 200 games. That's the hard part. Now it's, okay, we get all the scouts in a room, and the scouting meetings, I want to ask them when they happened, if they haven't happened already. Now it's, okay, we got to sit in a room, we'll get a whiteboard at the front, let's start ranking these guys. Let's get our lists together. And that's what the important heavy lifting is now. What's our list? And I think not just what is the list of what we see as the 10 best players, 20 best players, 50 best players in this draft. It's how do those 50 best players fit into this side of the chart, into our depth chart? How do they fit into what we're trying to build for the Arizona Coyotes? So he might be the best player at that position here, but you know what? It doesn't fit into what we're building here. So let's move by him and do our order. So I think for Bill today, I would imagine the rest of the day, was it Tuesday?
It's Tuesday.
Tuesday? The rest of the Tuesday, he's going to go home and watch hockey. Like, there's not much he can do for the
That's
draft
true.
in July. Today, the pick's over. He literally did nothing but watch TV just like we did. So now it's just getting his list together.
Yep.
And I think, we're going to hear from him what the process is between now and July for him and his staff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the part I want to know. And I don't think it's fair to go, hey, Bill, who are you going to pick at 3? We can't ask him that. Like, we can't. Like, not today. But
I mean, we could.
we can. I mean, we could.
There's no one stopping us.
We could. But I think now, between now and July, he's got a lot of work to do. And I don't think the number 3 pick is hard work for him. I don't think that's where he's going to,
No.
define his job and his outlook.
And
is
that's
at
something
3.
that was said in the comments. It's the picks between 20 and 40. That's the real work. And somebody had said, what about rounds 2 through 7? And that is something that we're going to be talking to these draft experts about. Like we said, Corey Pronman, Craig Button, Chris Peters, and our special guest in June. Those are the people who have been watching all of the players just because we all know about maybe the top 10 prospects. Every single player that's getting drafted in 2022 has been watched by somebody. So there's people out there who are more knowledgeable than us that we will make sure that all Coyotes fans can hear from, because that's who Coyotes fans are going to want to know about. And like we said, we have 2 months between now and the first and second rounds first through 7th rounds of the NHL draft. And we'll make sure that it's maybe to the point that Coyotes fans can be watching the 3rd round saying, oh yeah, I know that name. Hopefully that's a place we can get you to. And Craig is back. Craig, welcome back.
What's up, guys?
How'd everything go?
We literally just sat here at dead air for the last half hour. We're just waiting for you.
Yeah, I figured you guys couldn't make it happen without me.
The show.
I didn't think that at all. No. You guys run most of the show, let's face it. I'm here for like
Craig,
20% of the shows.
While we wait for Bill, what was the energy and the mood like at the press conference?
The first question I asked him was, what's your reaction to getting number 3 overall? And he said, you're a GM, you're a competitor, you want to be number 1. So he was honest about it, which you love, right? Just refreshing to hear. Yeah, no, we're okay at number 3. There's a lot of great players. And there are. We've talked about all this. But he wanted to win. He's a competitor. So there's a little disappointment. It's pretty clear that Shane Wright would have been the guy had they picked number 1. But now that it's number 3, we'll wait and see. We're going to get him on here soon. I think Bob Heathouse waylaid him in the hallway, so it may take him longer than it would have.
The Heater's got him?
We'll blame Heater. Yep.
Oh, geez. Everybody pack a lunch. This could be a while.
Yeah.
Heater. Oh,
so what's the reaction of Coyotes Nation so far?
I think people are okay. I don't think it's group therapy. I think people are okay, and I think we're going to be a big part of that, Craig. I think we're telling them 3 is okay, and I think the player that can help this franchise is still going to be there at 3. I really believe that.
Yeah, I do too. And again, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen with these guys 3 to 5 years down the road. It could change, like that draft that we talked about with Nico Hischier and Nolan Patrick at the top. If you redrafted that thing now, neither one of those guys would be at the top 2. There'd probably be 3 guys ahead of them in Cale Makar, Miro Heiskanen, and Elias Pettersson. Yeah. So it could be one of those drafts. You just never know. Another interesting question that was asked of him is, does this relieve some pressure on you because you don't have to take the guy that everybody expects you to take? He's like, well, listen, I think everybody knew who number 1 was going to be, but at the same time, he's assembled this draft staff, the scouting staff. This was his first priority when he took over as GM. He said when he did the interview after he was hired, he was walking across the parking lot thinking, what's going to differentiate me from every other GM in the league? Well, it's going to be that I'm going to assemble the most complete scouting staff that this organization's, or what, not from every other GM in the league, sorry, from previous GMs, the Coyotes. I'm going to assemble the best scouting staff that has ever been here. And the advantage that Bill has that other GMs didn't have was he was a scout. Yeah. He did it for a couple decades. He really understands the business inside out. So he went about and did it. Grant, you have to give ownership some credit too for giving him the resources to get there, right? Otherwise, you can't assemble that staff. So those two things paired together, you bring in Daryl Plandowski, you bring in Ryan Jankowski, you bring in Larry Plow, you bring in a number of other, really, Alan Heppel, a bunch of experienced scouts that have been around. Bill just made the point, we got 4 guys here that have picked number 1 overall. So you got a lot of experience on this staff. Now it's time to put it to work.
But you brought up a good point, Craig, and you go back through Coyotes history, there's a couple of things that preclude them from being able to draft well and develop well. One is money. And you look through the Don Maloney era, Don Maloney was kind of handcuffed with what he could do because it was run by the league. So, his scouting staff was incredibly pared down. You talked to him, but he had one part-time scout in all of Europe.
Who was like 26 with no experience. So based in the Czech Republic, hey, you got all of Europe. Good luck. Like, you
So I
can't,
think
you
that's
can't
part
operate
of
that way.
money is clearly part of it. So you need an owner that believes in it. 2, you need a general manager that believes in it, because there are general managers out there, I'm telling you, and may or may not have had some in this organization that maybe don't believe as much in scouting because they feel they're the eye test, that they're the guy that is making that call, and they don't want to assemble people around them because they want to do it themselves. So I think that's a GM that's got to understand it, the position, trust the position. 2, you need an owner that's willing to fund and pay for that position. Then 3, you got to go find the right people that are experienced enough to build the right staff, be able to get those picks. And then you need to develop those guys with a good, strong hockey development staff. And that includes everybody from strength and conditioning to nutrition to mental health coaches to people that travel around and watch these kids develop from the time now they're 17, 18 until they're ready to play in the league. There are so many dominoes that need to fall in place to get a kid ready to play in the National Hockey League. And I don't mean that for Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews. Here's a sweater kid, go play for those guys. But it's the picks, like Craig said, it's the 20 to 45 picks that, okay, now we've got to get this kid and groom him into what we want to build here. And I think this is the first time that all of those things are lining up for this franchise. And I mean, from a scouting staff to a GM believes in that, the owner is willing to pay for it, to a development staff that's there. All of those pieces are falling into place. Again, no guarantees. A lot of heavy lifting, a lot of work that needs to be done. But this is the first time that everything in that chain is all pulling the same way. And that, again, as somebody on the outside looking in, gives you hope, because those are the pieces that need to be in place to build the Boston Bruins, Chicago Blackhawks, LA Kings, all of those teams that have good drafts, good development, and then they finally are able to put it all together and win a Stanley Cup. I'm not saying plan the parade down Van Buren quite yet. I am saying that they are doing things the right way for right now. And that gives us hope, and that's why you stick around and stay tuned for the next few years.
You know, and I've had talks with some of the scouts, from Daryl Plandowski or Ryan Jankowski, about this as well. And you can underplay this a little bit when you say, well, Bill's got scouting experience, that it's good to have him in the GM chair. It's not just that he understands the business, so he's going to be able to find the right people. He understands everything that these guys are going through on a day-to-day basis. He gives them credit. Like when I've written stories about J.J. Mosier or Karel Vemelka this season, he's been quick to point out the scout that was responsible for finding them, but he's also there to just lend his expertise, his experience to them, and he understands what they're going through on a day-to-day basis. Daryl Plandowski said it to me. He said, that's one of the biggest reasons I came here, Craig, because I knew he understands the job. He really understands the job at every level, and that gives you a lot of faith that the decisions that get made are going to be the right decisions. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's so true. And I feel sitting here right now, and even though maybe some people are feeling a sense of disappointment, there is also that sense of hope. And that's a feeling that as a Coyotes fan, I haven't had for a long time. And I trust Bill Armstrong. I trust his scouting staff. And by the way, if you haven't gotten the chance to listen to our interview with Tim Bernhardt, which was last Wednesday, he was here live. You can also listen to it on audio or on YouTube, but he really, really explains what goes into scouting and what goes into a draft day. So if you want some more insight into what's happening now in the Coyotes scouting and GM room and what's going to happen in these next 2 months and what's going to happen on July 7th and 8th, it was really great insight. So give that a listen. And Tim was the director of amateur scouting for the Arizona Coyotes, and and he's an expert, has been in this industry for a long time. And you talk about the scouting staff now, that's even more experienced than what was then. And that scouting staff hit on some amazing players. We talk about Connor Garland as one, and here he is. By the way,
Craig, you gotta roll it in. You ready, Craig?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Hello.
Man of the hour.
What's
What
going
are you
on,
eating
kids?
now? Are you upgraded from the chocolate bar you had earlier?
I thought it was just going to be you and me in the room. I didn't know this was going to be 800
Oh,
people.
no,
I
this is
was
a big
so
deal.
unprofessional.
We got tens and tens of people listening right now.
I
So,
know.
Bill, first off, take us through that minute. Like when they pull up, and I know I was part of this organization when the Connor McDavid draft went on, and you saw the Oilers card go up, and you go, "Oh shoot, not again." Yeah. How was that feeling for you? Just that moment when the card flipped over.
Well, I mean, it's just settling into, you're like, oh, kind of little, a little disappointed, but then you remind yourself, listen, you had the odds of 13%, the percentages, it's, hey, listen, it's, the odds it's getting there is just okay, so I did the simulator. I was saying that earlier all day. It was like 3-4, 3-4, 3-4, 3-4, and then it was like one every 10 times. So I kind of had come to the conclusion that it's like 1 in a million that you're going to get that. So long time before it happened. Yeah.
But for you, Bill, we talked about this on the show, and first of all, there's a lot of good players in this draft, and I think that Coyotes fans can be excited at the 3 spot. But for you and your scouting staff, the heavy lifting has been going on literally for years, right? Like, this isn't about today.
No, I mean, listen, the guys in the draft now, our staff is very experienced. They've watched these guys for the last 2 to 3 years, and I think our advantage is also the fact that we've been kind of picking the top 10 the whole entire year and had great coverage, and had the debate all year long about this, where we're going to pick. So I think that gives us a little bit of an advantage. Just there'd be some teams that maybe are surprised they're kind of up in some of the ranges, and or we're not. We've been prepared for it. So it's exciting. I mean, listen, if you look at some of the past drafts, the best player wasn't taken at 1. So, we've got to do our homework, and we've got to go to work, and there's still some more work to be done with the evaluation, but they're going to be great meetings. And with the amount of assets that we have, we can also, impact the draft a little bit by moving up or acquiring more picks by taking on cap space.
I want to get to all that in just a minute, Bill, but I got to ask you about this experience today.
Yeah.
In past years, the draft lottery is you're sequestered in some studio somewhere, and in secrecy, you can't reveal anything. Was it better just to be at home, to be in Arizona for this whole thing, or would you have rather been in that bizarre studio where they're on your every reaction, watching every move that you make?
No, I liked it how it was done today. I think it was great. Because it's for us. Right now we're out there trying to see players too, and and you can't be everywhere. So with the Zoom, it's really nice. But I thought they did a great job with it. It was exciting the way they did it, and it's probably a better way that they've done it now. And who would have known the pandemic would have to lead to a better way to do the.
So we just talked to you about this in the interview room, but I want to rehash this for all of our listeners and our viewers who haven't heard this yet. Your reaction to getting number 3 and your thoughts on what might be available. If you want to reveal your pick right now, we won't stop you.
I knew Craig would just say it.
The Coyotes select in the 2022. I think what I like to do, with our staff, is with Ryan and Daryl do a great job. They travel the world and they do it all day long. Those guys have been on the road the entire year, and it's really not an easy place to be on with all the COVID restrictions, with the masks and all the airport. You give those guys a lot of credit, but they have absolutely hammered it. And it's exciting for us to be at this point. And when you see that number 3 comes up, it's just like, okay, now we know where we're picking. Now we know exactly what's coming our way, what we think. And now it's time to do planning and strategy, and let's go to work. And, I don't get too rattled about it just because of the sense that I've been in the drafts for years, and sometimes you're like, oh, I really want this certain area to pick, and you get the other area and you do better. So I think it's just the way that it works, and you just accept it and move on and go to work.
So what happens now? Obviously, there's still 2 months till the draft. Now number 3 for sure, and we'll see how everything else falls for the rest. But what happens between now and July 7th for you and your scouting staff?
Yeah, well, this is the way when you stand up and we announce the 3rd pick overall, you really want to have a good feeling in your gut about the pick. And for me, the way that we've always done that, it was extensive research, analytics, video, meeting the player constantly, also meeting his family, going right into their homes and getting to know them a little bit, see how they treat their siblings and their parents, and take them to dinner and hang around with them for a bit. So to answer that, you really got to know the player. You've got to dig in every facet. You got to do extra research and talking to his coaches and, who's had him on the Olympic or the U18 team, and really have a great understanding of that player. So when you stand on stage and you announce him, you know that player inside and out, from psych work your doctors have done on him to the 5 sources of background information that the scouts have found out, to scrubbing their social media. You want to have that good feeling inside your heart that you know this kid inside and out, almost like you know your own son.
Well, and that's what I think Coyotes fans, especially with you, Bill, that this is a unique position for a general manager of this organization that's actually been in those shoes and walked that beat. And you've literally done that, and you understand how important that is. And I think that's important for the fans here to understand that you see the value and how understand how important it is. We had Tim Bernhardt in last year, former director of scouting, and you know him through your travels, obviously. And something surprised me. He said they build their list, and I just assumed, because I'm naive, you have 7 rounds, you got 30 players, there's 210 guys on your list. And he said, no, we don't have 210 guys on your list. You pick your spots where you're going to draft, and you pick a group around that. Can you tell us what that process looks like, because you have so many picks in those first 3 rounds?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a story about it. So normally when you go to the games at this time of the year, the other staffs look at you and go, oh, he's here, he's looking at this certain player because they have a pick in this range.
Wow.
But, he's not watching the other guy because they're not close to that. We have so many picks, they have no idea why we're there. We got them on the top end, we got them on the bottom, we got them in the middle. Like it's just such a great advantage. But, when you look at your list, you're not, if you're picking at, for years when I was with the Blues, we picked around the 20 to 26 range. And you're not worried about the top 15 because none of those guys are coming your way. You're just really honed into what's around the group that you think is going to be there. And you really got to dig into that and perfect that order. And that's where the background and all the stuff comes into play. And your analytics come in that ask questions and, what you really want to get accomplished. And, and sometimes, when you have multiple picks, for us, if you look at that area at the end of the first, early second, there's a good chunk in that range that we're going to be picking, whether it's in the late first or early second. They're all in the same range, so it gives us a little bit of an advantage, and we can be more aggressive in the sense that, like, I'll give you an example. If there's a risky player, and you only have one pick at 56, it's hard to take that guy. We're not as worried about it because of the simple fact that we have 7. We still have to hit on the pick, but if you got a couple guys that are in the bank already and you feel good about, hey, these guys are going to play, let's swing for the fences here right now, and we can do that. So
when you look at this draft, and maybe this is diving a little too deep in the weeds, but there's been a lot of talk about there's a group of players right at the top that are close in ability. I don't know what that number is. Say it's 7 or 8. What are the tiers of this draft? So maybe if it's 7 or 8 deep at the top, what's the next tier before it starts to drop off again? What's your sense of that?
That's interesting on this one. I don't know if I can explain it that way. I would just say that after 5, it's going to spray, where the media will be like, oh, wow, that guy, I didn't see that, It's just one of those years. It's going to get to the 5, and after that, you're going to see what we call some crazy Ivans come into play here, where you're just like, whoa, our staff say, hey, you could have got him at 30. You didn't have to take him at 6. But it's going to be one of those drafts. It's going to spray. There's going to be
some that come in because of the pandemic and the difficulty scouts have had over the last 14, 16, 18 months.
Yeah, the pandemic has really had an effect on some of the kids. Like if you go to the OHL games and that, the leagues have, they didn't play for a whole year. It has an effect on kids, Some of those kids have never been in playoffs in the OHL. So I do believe the pandemic has had some effect on some of the kids. But it's slowly getting worked out. But there's going to be some kids in the draft that, you take them in the 7th round and they're going to be really, really great players. They just didn't get a chance to play. So
when you look at what you had to go through this season, and I know you're a competitor, you were a player, so it's not fun to watch your team lose a lot. is it nice to get that behind you and finally start this part of the process, basically phase 2 of the rebuild plan, where you can finally put some things into action and you can see some progress taking you forward?
Yeah, I mean, there are points of the season that it gets really, really tough. We had some win streaks. We had some surprises at the end where we just had down 4-0. You come back and there were just some amazing games at the end where we didn't really have a full lineup in, and we just found ways to win. I think when our team was built, when we went 0-11. There were some scary times where, listen, we knew we weren't going to win the Stanley Cup, but we thought we could be competitive with the group. And there were some scary times, and we were very fragile, and that's tough to go through. But to finish on the high that we did in the amount of players on our team that had success and had better seasons than the year before, that was an exciting time. But this is the next stage of it where it gets even more exciting because we have the ability to go out there and draft some good players and make an impact on our organization. So this is a fun time. If you're a scout, the worst thing as a scout, I was saying this earlier, is that a scout with a good list and no picks. That means he spent the entire year traveling the world for nothing, and nobody will ever know how good his list was. That's not the case with the Coyotes. We get a chance to swing for the fences here.
Bill, along with the draft, and in your job, you wear many hats. So you've got the draft, and we know that's been the focus of today and for the next 2 months, but you also have to start looking at signing some players that were on the team from this year. And you also have to start looking at, into the future of free agents. You have to build a franchise and a group of 20 players to play next fall. When can fans start to expect to see some of that movement too in the next few weeks, few months?
Yeah, you'll start to see it. So, I mean, the process is just reaching out to some of our guys that need contracts, and starting to make that, and starting to get talking and get negotiating and start working on some of those deals. So it's a never-ending quest to kind of keep your team, building and moving forward. Obviously, the Kraus and the Hayden's up, and there's a few other guys along with them that we have to sign, and we'll continue to do that from now till the draft. So that's a process that goes on. It never stops. I mean, I think the planning for the draft is important, but there's also, using your salary cap space and doing those deals are also important for the franchise too. So there's a lot of work still to be done.
Last one for me, Bill, and I know we let you get going. It's been a long day. So in your office behind you, do you have are you like us? Do you have all the cardboard boxes folded up behind you? Do you call all your buddies and say, hey, do you have a pickup truck? Everybody meet at my office. Is moving days imminent here? Is it all hands on deck to get out of Glendale Arena and all the offices cleaned out?
I used to own a pickup truck, and I get rid of it. Because not that I didn't like the pickup truck, is because everybody and their mother would call me to move stuff for them. So because I've went through that in my lifetime, my savviness as a GM is that I have scheduled all my important meetings out of town when we are moving. So I have no responsibility, and when I will just show up at the new office, and it'll be just like this.
That is fantastic. Brilliant. That's the boss right there.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, Bill, thank you so much for taking some time out of what I can imagine is a really busy day for you, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you at least one more time before July 7th. So thanks again for taking the time. We really appreciate having you on.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, Bill.
All right. That was Bill Armstrong, general manager of the Arizona Coyotes. Now been on the program 3 different times, which is amazing. I think that officially makes him a friend of the program. So hold as we get back to the big screen here, recapping what's happened so far. Arizona will be drafting with the 3rd pick. So listening to Bill talk, sounds like they have a plan. There's work to be done, and I feel very confident.
I do, and he understands the importance of scouting and the importance of drafting. I have complete confidence in this and what direction they're going. I can't wait for the draft now.
Yeah,
2 months. 2 months. We'll prepare everybody.
Yep, we'll talk about it. And on that note, about that scouting staff, now I can dive into the type of writing that I love to do the most. Some really deep dives. I'm going to do something on the scouting staff, and then once they make all those picks, I'm going to look at development, because that's an equally important part of this whole process that gets often overlooked. I think it's often been overlooked by this franchise, and that's been part of the problem. Sometimes it wasn't the guys they drafted, it was the development that came afterward that cost them the most. So lots of interesting content that I want to dive into this summer. But we've been on the air for like an hour and 40 minutes, guys.
Yep.
So it's probably time to call it. Thank you,
We got to be
everybody.
back here tomorrow
who's stuck with
live.
us.
Yeah,
That's right, with Corey Pronman. That'll be a great show. Love to get Corey's thoughts.
Well, we're
now.
asking specifics tomorrow. We're asking names. We're
getting
asking
right into
players.
it.
So if you want to hear some of the names that the Coyotes could be picking at 3, we will be talking about them tomorrow. I promise.
Absolutely. So that's what's going to be coming from here on out. That will be live tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. here on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Everyone, thank you so much for watching it. It made it so much more enjoyable to watch it with a community. Thank you all for your comments, for the pack therapy, and please follow us on Twitter at PHNX_Coyotes. We can continue the conversation, as well as in the members only Discord. I feel like I need to now take a minute to debrief, maybe have a beer.
Yeah, we might have a beer.
Go ahead and rub it in. Go ahead and rub it in.
Yep.
Nobody heard our cry for a beer. We
They're
requested one, but
Suns.
the Suns game is tonight. So everybody, we really, really appreciate you being here with us. Like we said, we'll be back at 11:30 a.m. tomorrow. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, so you don't miss an audio episode either. Every live show is also on audio, so if you want to listen back again tomorrow, you can, or listen to the Corey Pronman interview tomorrow on audio, you can. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter, like I said, at PHNX_Coyotes, and we'll see everyone tomorrow. Goodbye.